All right.
Yeah.
Here we are, rolling into episode 20 of the High Octane Dads podcast. We can almost legally drink, but we've been doing it for a long time.
Homestretch,
Anyway,
baby.
I'm getting there. Heck
Watch,
yeah.
before you know it, we're at 20. We'll be at 120 before you know it.
Hey, I'm here for it. I'm excited. We'll bring Mikey back for the 120th.
Yeah.
Yeah,
So
there we
set in
go.
stone.
Yes, I hope I can
So
come
we
back
got
before then.
Yeah.
absolutely. Yeah, so we got myself, obviously Chris, and then we've got special guest here with us, Mikey. He was able to hop in and join us tonight, so we definitely appreciate you hopping in here. We're going to talk about some of the stuff he's got going on. And Mike, you want to give a little introduction?
So, hi, my name's Mikey. I've been 3 days.
Hi, Mikey.
So,
Doing better than me.
Like Chris, I've recently changed my career path, and I quit my full-time job, and my wife asked me to start a YouTube channel and be a full-time stay-at-home dad. So that's what I'm doing.
Hell yeah.
Nowadays. Yes.
The
It's what
dream.
everyone aspires to do.
Yeah.
Heck yeah.
Yeah.
I love it. It's awesome. Well, cool. Well, I did have on my list, I promised last week. So, Mikey, before we jump into all of that, because I want to hear all about the YouTube channel and everything, did make it to the track last week. Didn't think I was going to. Had a lot of stuff going on, but I decided, you know what? Load the car up. We're going to go. And it was a pretty disappointing evening. We didn't get there till late because the testing tune's on Friday. So, got there. By the time we got off the trailer, I had to still do a few tweaks to the tune with all the changes. And by the time we got them done, I managed to get 2 passes in because of, just people oiling down the track prep, cleanup, and I literally rolled into the staging lanes as they were closing them down. I was one of the last 3 cars to get to make passes, and the track was so cold, I was spinning like crazy. So it wasn't a great night. I got some decent data on the data logs, though. So the plan right now, I'm actually off work all day November 1st, day after Halloween, so I'm going to have the car loaded up before we take the kids trick-or-treating, and I plan to be there when the gates open on Friday. So that is the plan right now. So yeah, the plan right now is to be back out there November 1st and get some better passes in, have a little bit warmer track. So, yeah, that is the plan right now. Other than that, not a lot of great updates on it, but there were some lessons learned, and that's all I'll say.
Yeah. Hey, it happens. Hey, it could be worse.
Well, at the end of the day, I haven't raced, and I mentioned last time I thought it had only been like a year. It'd been like 2 years since I'd taken the car out. So the fact that when I sort of had the setbacks where it was like maybe I won't go, it'll be fine. I was like, you know what? No, I'm putting the car in the trailer, and we're going, and kind of knock the cobwebs off, and that definitely has helped just to get the confidence to get back out there. So I'll be out there on the 1st for sure.
Awesome.
It's kind of like that for me when my wife's held out for like a few months or something, and it's like, I just got to get back in there. I got to get that confidence back. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Locked in.
So
Watch
once
some
you get that
YouTube
first one out of the
tutorials.
way.
Yeah, you gotta get that first, break the ice, as it were.
Yeah, there you go.
Yeah, or some sort of tutorials. I don't know, maybe from YouTube.
I tried to make
correct.
a Feet Finder account the other day.
Yeah.
I think we've talked about that a couple of times. Like, there's got to be a market for like big hairy feet that we could fund all these car projects. And in your case,
I mean,
like motorcycle projects.
I mean,
Dude, I got
all I
those
got
in
to do
spades. I don't need any more.
Yeah. So before we started recording, just in honor of having you on tonight, I went on a just mad rip through the neighborhood on my mini bike. So
Nice.
I was getting it, man. So yesterday, we get a lot of birds this time of year that hover around our neighborhood, and it'll be like thousands of them. You'll see just giant swarms. And there's a guy in my neighborhood blowing an air horn and shit all the time at them, which I got a story about that. But I was riding around the neighborhood yesterday, and I was getting it, and I kind of went under these trees, coming around a turn, and like I felt something hit me. I felt something hit me. I said, what the hell? Something fell off a damn tree, and I wiped my face as I was getting it, and it was all this like blue shit. I said, what the fuck? I was like, a berry or something fell out of the tree, and then I was like, I got shit on. Hit me right in the face. I was like, damn it. I just wiped off what I could and kept on riding and went on to the house.
A real trooper.
Yeah, that's a badge of honor, dude.
Yeah.
There's bikers that ride for years that don't get that.
I mean, I had a, full helmet on and goggles and riding gear and all that.
Yeah.
And I was being safe.
Yeah.
But yeah, it just went right through, hit me in the face.
Yeah. I'm sure those riding boots had a some holes in them, or
were your boots in four-wheel
oddly shaped
drive,
like a
dude, or
flip
what?
flop?
No, they got holes in them, but they got fleece on the inside of them, so
Oh, well, there you go.
they were not in 4-wheel drive.
That always makes for a great video when they go flying off when you
Well, yeah,
hit the ground.
I don't know. I mean, I was leaning into turns. I need to get a better tires on that thing because you start leaning, they get a little wobbly.
There's some good ones on Amazon.
Them China knobbies.
Yeah. King Shin. It's the name.
Yeah.
Good name. Yeah.
Huh. Well, I do know I want to do a front and rear wheel upgrade to put disc brakes on that thing. And when I do that, I want to get a set of the on-road tires for it too.
Okay. All right.
So the braking and the tires are going to be the next big thing that thing needs. My mic, I might lose my mic here in a little bit. We'll see what happens.
It's not an episode without something in Chris's setup just randomly going and then falling, like he's lost the mic. His chair broke a couple weeks ago.
Yeah, I threw 2 chairs away.
I'm just waiting to see the Trans Am just slowly go rolling out of the garage behind him.
Man, it wouldn't surprise. So years ago, when I lived with my mom and I did all my stuff in the driveway, her driveway is on a hill, and I would have the back jack stands jacked up more, the front ones lower. Actually, for years, I didn't even have jack stands. I would use the jacks that came with the cars, and I would jack this one up a little bit and then that one up a little bit and put blocks under shit. Well, I had my 82 Trans Am and I was putting brakes on the front of it, and I had everything all jacked up, and I had left it with the wheels and everything off of it. I came home the next day. It was sat like that for 2 weeks. And I came home one day from work and the thing was on the ground. And after that, I was like, maybe I, should do a little bit better about blocking things up a little bit more, because I could have been underneath that thing. It had been there for weeks. I never would have thought it would have moved. And just randomly, one day it's on the ground. It smashed the jacks over and everything.
Oh, man.
I didn't think about it. I had the OBS, I had the rear on jack stands, and then the front, when we pulled the engine and everything out, and I went out there one day after it rained, and where my carport is, the water washes across there pretty good. I happened to walk out, and I was like, something doesn't look right. And I walked out there, and both the jack stands were laid over. The truck had just shifted backwards. Sat down. I was like, I didn't think it was where I left it, but I mean, luckily the wheels and tires are all on it, so it just sat down on them. But yeah, I don't can't trust just leaving on the jack stands. And when I first did this swap, I did everything with hand tools. I didn't have the power ratchet, I didn't have an impact, nothing. And I did it all, kind of figuring it out as I went. Well, I had went out and bought, when it come time to do the transmission, I was like, I'm gonna have to get the car up higher. So I went out and bought me some big 6-ton jack stands. It stayed on them for 2-3 months. I'd been all underneath that car working, and I'm sitting at work one day, and this article pops up. It's like, recall Harbor Freight jack stands, 6-ton. I was like, I went and checked the serial numbers, and sure enough, every one of them was under the recall. I was like, oh boy, I got pretty lucky.
Wow. Yeah, I've got 6 or 8 of the 6-ton jack stands, but 4 of them I got from one of those really cheap tool sales that comes into town before we even had a Harbor Freight. But I mean, they've been great. And then a few years ago, I went to go work on something. I think when I did the Caprice last year, I went and bought 4 more. So, because there was a bunch of times where I would put them all 4 of them underneath something, and then it would be sitting for a while. And then I'm like, I really need these big jack stands for my Suburban. So
that's real car guy problems. When your jack stands are so tied up with the non-running project, you need more of them for the running project.
Man, I've got a lot of jack stands these days. I mean, I'd say at least a dozen floating around.
Well, we probably need to talk about it one day, because when I did the transmission the last time of this thing, when it had to come out, I borrowed a set of cribs, and that was life-changing. I've got all the lumber to build some. I just haven't done it yet, but I want a set done.
Well, what about for bikes there? Do you got a jack for them, or you just He-Manning them up all everywhere right now?
Well, it just kind of depends. So, if you see the one that's behind me.
See, that's what I need, an old dirt bike project.
I just made that out of wood, and I'll put anything. I'll put a Harley on it, I'll put anything. But now, if you probably can't see it, but there's they sell these they're kind of like a scissor jack kind of deal. It's got 2 flat pieces. It's got a their C channel, and then it you twist it and it pulls together and it scissors up. Those are more for. I mean, you use them when it's sitting on the ground. I mean, primarily. I put it like up on a stand like that or something first, and then jack it up with that. And then that way, like if you're doing like changing out the back tire, changing out the front tire or something, and you need to raise it up or hold it up while, whatever's off of it. That's usually what we use. But there's all kinds of, milk crates. Well, I mean, pretty much if you can get the bike on it, you can probably set it on it.
Hell yeah.
Yeah.
So I don't remember a whole lot, but like we went to school together. But when we got to high school, I never really remember you being into motorcycles much, but I don't know. It wasn't until I noticed, many years after we got out of school where I'm like, dude, he's like into building some awesome shit. Not like buying all these crazy expensive ass bikes that everybody wants to flaunt. I like building old junk like that. It's the way to do it.
Well, so I've been into motorcycles ever since I can remember. Like legitimately ever since I can remember. And if it wasn't motorcycles, like as long as it had wheels, I was content. But my favorite thing has always been motorcycles. But like when we was in high school though, we rode dirt bikes every single day. Me, Justin Brower, Marcus Long, Garrett Wallachie, which I mean, all of them were younger than me and you. So, because I got held back once or twice, but we rode dirt bikes across the street at Corey Klein's house. But I was, my family never had a whole lot of money. I never had a whole lot of money. So I never had my own dirt bikes. So I was always borrowing and, stuff like that. And then when I got to high school, I was like, now I'm going to get a badass dirt bike. I wanted a YZ250, like something fierce. Never got it. Because as soon as I was able to drive and start like really working, I had a piece of shit car, had to try and keep it running. And then it just...
You don't know what that's like.
Yeah. And so it wasn't until after we graduated that I had enough money to get anything.
Okay.
Well, and then
and
I
now
just
look
kept
at you.
collecting and collecting. I've got 21 of them now.
Holy shit.
Dirt bikes specifically or bikes in general?
No, just bikes in general.
Okay, because I was going to say 21 dirt bikes plus what I saw all over there. I was like...
There's all kinds. I've got Harleys in here. I've got a Montesa from Spain in here. I've got a bunch of Yamahas.
Oh, that's cool.
I got a bunch of XS650.
Yeah.
So how'd you end up with? So tell me about the one from Spain. Like, how'd you end up with that? Is that just something? Did you go looking for it, or was it?
No, not in particularly. No, I mean, I always thought it'd be cool to have it. It's a 1971 Montesa King Scorpion. That's what it is. It's a 250cc, two-stroke enduro. And it was like the first like legit
turned like a cafe
enduro
racer or something like that.
No, it was like it's like the first like legit enduro, which is like a street legal dirt bike basically.
Okay. Oh yeah, I see it. All right.
Yeah. Prior to that, it was more so like like people would take like Triumphs and BSAs and things like that, like stuff from Europe and even like old like Ironhead Sportsters and things like that, and they would kind of like convert it to ride it off-road a little bit. But the King Scorpion was the first legit purpose-built. You can take it on-road, you can take it off-road. But Chris probably knows or knew Mike Campbell, right? He had the house.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah, he had the house next to the road,
down the road from
Pantera across the garage.
Yeah.
That was my best friend, and he was like a best friend, but he was also like a dad to me, like in a way, and definitely like a father figure.
Bluebeard.
Yeah, Bluebeard. That's what a lot of people called him. But so when he passed away, his POS sister was like just immediately trying to sell everything that he had, and that bike. I didn't even realize it for a long time. That bike, he had a barn behind his house, and that barn fell down like when I was like a teenager. Come to find out, that bike was sitting underneath the corner of that barn after it had collapsed.
Oh, wow.
And I went out there and asked her, I said, hey, I'll give you $50 for that thing. It ain't worth anything. And she said, she'll dig it out and you can have it for $50. So I gave her $50 and literally had to like pick the barn up off of the bike. But as a testament to Montesa and their quality, that bike still rolls just as good as it did the day it come off the showroom floor after having the corner of
That's
that bar and
crazy.
sit on top of it for however long. But
Wow.
I
that
think
was
so much of that's just older, like, the way things were made, right? I mean,
there's a
a friend
grease
of
fitting
mine
on
that lives.
anything that moves on that bike. There's a grease fitting.
That's awesome.
Yeah.
Everything's
Yep.
everything's basic, usually more robust. I mean, it just holds up a little bit better.
Well, so when Hurricane Helene come through, I've got a friend in South Carolina. Him and his dad have built a couple of different cars, and they've got a Grand National that they just finished an LS swap on. Like, just got it running maybe last year, and a tree come down on the shop, and it like crushed right down the middle of the car. I mean, it was heartbreaking to look at the pictures. And I mean, they've got Haggerty on everything, and of course, homeowners cover stuff, but he's effectively, I think they're going to total it and he's going to buy the car back. But I mean, they talked to a guy and the guy's like, it's fixable. Like I can fix it for you. And I think it was within what they're going to get. And so they're going to get it fixed. But yeah, I mean, imagine a newer car now. I mean, it would just be between that and the electronics, there'd be no saving them.
No.
Yeah.
Hey, no what?
Well, cool, man. Well, that's, and you telling that story reminds me of there's another podcast that I think, I've been kind of keeping my eye on. I watched some of it. Now he's got a huge following already, but it's the Reckon Yard podcast, spelled Reckon like Reckon.
Okay.
I'm going to have to look up his name now. It's Jerry Wayne.
That sounds like my kind of guy, Jerry Wayne.
Yeah. Well, so have you seen the
Two
reels?
first names?
Well, I'm blanking on his last name. It's a problem. But he's the guy, if you've seen those reels and TikToks where he does the truck astrology and he'll point out like an old Dodge and he'll like, say something about the kind of guy that would drive that truck. And then he'll show like a newer Tacoma. And
yeah.
I don't know
It's
if
a
you've
heavy
seen
set
those.
dude.
Yeah. So it's that guy. But he started a podcast. I think he's like 10 episodes in, but he's got a huge following. Each of his are, between 3,000 and 6,000 views. But he just, from what I've seen, he sits and he tells stories about when he was a kid and the cars they had growing up, spending time with his family and dad. And I mean, it's pretty cool. I started to say Jerry Wayne Longmire, and that is his name, Longire Longmire. But
good job.
Yeah, I would definitely check it out because, yeah, I mean, he tells a lot of cool stories, man. And then his reels are hilarious. And then he does stand up comedy, like outside of that. So he's got the personality for it. Unlike, we're just a couple of dudes that like talking about cars. So
Yeah.
I don't think I could do a comedy set if my life depended on it, unless it was slapstick.
I don't know. I could talk a lot of shit though.
Well,
Hey, crowd work's
I guess
a
it depends
thing
on how
nowadays.
you're going to do it.
Huh?
It's like the thing,
Yeah.
right?
Oh,
That's,
yeah.
I mean,
Crowd
Matt
work.
Rife, that's his whole. I mean, he's got good comedy, but
everybody
like his
wants
whole
to be
thing,
stimulated.
we're not going to take
Speaking-
that thought any further.
speaking
You
of-
change the subject.
Speaking of, so we were talking about the intro music. I was thinking I went to the store a little bit ago to get some corn nuts, and I was thinking about. I was like, I ought to get my guitar out and restring it. It's been years since I've touched it. I was like, maybe we'll figure out some music and I'll put something together for us.
I would
So-
love to hear that.
Hey,
So
there is some videos of me floating around singing and playing guitar, so it might have done a little bit of that for right after getting out of high school. So
now look, if we can put something together, I'll dig my bass out of the attics right up there. But ironically, like very recently, because I know I know enough about guitar to play like the intro to Jessica and Give Me Three Steps and a few songs that make people go, man, that guy knows what he's doing. But then I don't know the rest of the song, right?
that was always my issue too.
I know G, C, D, A, E, A minor. I know a few chords, so enough to like hold my own, I guess. But then I quit playing for many years. Well, my son, randomly, my youngest, he's 10. He was like, I want to play music. And my wife was like, please don't be the drums. Please don't be the drums. Please don't be the drums. And I was like, look, whatever he wants to get into, because I played saxophone, I played guitar, bass. I was like, whatever. And he was like, clarinet. I was like, okay, I'm going to support my kid. And when I asked why, he's like, because Squidward played the clarinet. And I was like, all right, but what else? He's like, no, maybe the bass or guitar. And I was like, okay, now that I can do. And there's a local music shop called Music Medics, and they do a really great job teaching, all ages, but really good with kids. And so we're talking about getting him a guitar for Christmas. And luckily the guitar shop was like, well, we rent them. So if you want to do lessons, you can rent one out, try it for a month and a half, make sure, it's what he wants before you go invest in something.
Right.
Yeah. I'm getting back into playing by proxy of helping him and
Right.
showing him. So naturally,
So
I've got to buy
I bought-
myself a guitar because
I
don't
I
want
have
to take
pull
his.
it out. My daughter, I bought her a guitar, I don't know, several years ago for her birthday, and she really hasn't pushed learn a whole lot on it. But it's I don't remember the brand, but it's a Strat knockoff. It's not a Squire, but I've played some Strat clones that were really cheap and really lightweight and just don't sound that great. This one, it is nice and heavy. I played, real Strats, and I'm like, man, this thing feels like a real Strat. And I paid $80 for it, and
That's the right
it came
price.
with an amp. Yeah, it came with an amp. It's a Fender amp, and it was a college kid up in Harrisonburg, and he was like, "Yeah, I got it a couple years ago as a gift. I've never even touched it." I'm
Yeah.
like, "Sweet." So I was like, "I think he won like $100 for us. Would you take 80?" He's like, "Come get it today." I was like, "We'll be there." And it's a really nice guitar for the money. Like I've played with it a little bit, but I mean, my other one that I had, my other electric, I always played a lot of heavier music. So my style electric guitar was a little bit heavier than what you really wanted to get out of a Strat with standard strings on it. But yeah, I'll pull it out and see what it is and can send you some information on it.
I'll be curious to know if it's a crate because I had a knockoff that looked a lot like the Squire, but it was a crate Electra. It came in a little kit and it had, the guitar and a little amp and all that. And then my parents got me a little bit nicer amp, and I think I had a pedal too. So I played a good bit when I was in high school, and then I think I ended up selling the whole thing. Kind of the same thing. It's like I don't have time to play it anymore, so I just kind of sold the whole thing. And
I don't ever sell anything. Like I've got I sold my very first really good. I sold my really I had a Squire Stage Master 7-string, and it was like a black with a heavy metallic in it, and the neck was like, when it went up, it had like a left-handed neck on it, so the headstock was facing the other way, and it had a Floyd Rose bridge, and it was great, but it just would always go out of tune, and I'm like, man, I want something else. And I ended up selling that when I built my first engine for the Trans Am, and now I'm like, I'd like to have that guitar back.
Yep. Every time I sell something like that, and then I'm like, I end up I've got a 3D printer sitting right here and a resin 3D printer right there that I just don't have the heart to get rid of, because what if I want to print something one day and then I'm going to be mad I sold them?
Yeah.
Got to buy another one. So I just end up holding on to stuff. I mean, I hate that I got rid of that guitar, but the music shop, the guy, he brought out, we were playing a few different ones, and he brought out a Taylor GS Mini. So it's not a full size, but it's an unfinished one, and it sounds sweet. And he's like, he likes the like parlor style guitars, and so he's like, yeah, I don't really care for the GS Mini. And I was like, well, if you want to sell it, I know a guy that'll buy it. So
I got two funny things about guitars.
Telly.
One, if you're not buying a Yamaha, are you even really playing? Okay, first and foremost. Okay, and then the golden Gibson logos at the top of their guitars. Do you know my grandpa? His company is the one that makes those.
Wow.
BMO Graphics in Chattanooga, Tennessee. I mean, well,
oh wow,
it's not his company anymore. He sold his portion of the company and retired, but that was their very first contract.
Wow, that's pretty cool.
Sweet. That's a cool bit of history there, man.
Yeah,
very cool.
That's pretty awesome.
Yeah.
All right. Well, I think we've waited long enough. I want to hear about this YouTube channel. So what's the premise? What are you doing? It's obvious. It's got to be bike related, but like, tell us about it.
So I'm gonna, kind of aspiring to be something kind of like a cross between Puddin's Fab Shop and Vice Grip Garage. I think we all probably are familiar with those. They're hilarious, and they do. I feel like they have they got a good way of going about doing what they do. But so like some Will It Runs, that's literally the very first episode that I'm planning on putting, because I haven't put anything up yet. The very first episode is going to be a Will It Run on a 79 or 80. I can't remember what year it is. X650. And I'm kind of like just diving straight in, like full send. And if I can get it running, it will be it's going to be a build series, low buck, XS 650, a desert sled build, and then the goal is to go to California in April and race in the Biltwell 100, which is a 100-mile like desert race. And anybody can show up and run anything. So Yeah.
I feel ambitious just trying to say I'm going to have my LS swap truck done before LS Fest next year. You're going to take yours and go race it. That's freaking awesome. I love it. I respect it.
I mean, you pulled everything out of on your truck in like a weekend. I mean, you could put it back together in a weekend.
See, the way my ADHD is set up.
I know exactly how it is because I'm the same way.
But that is the goal. So like literally the engine's here, right? And I've got the cam gear off of it to put the cam in the thing. I got to get out here one afternoon and do it. So I'm inching ever closer with my 15 minutes a day.
Which end of the spectrum are you on there with the ADHD? Are you like, you got to restore it back to like perfect condition before you put it back together? Or are you the, like,
oh God, no.
No.
I'm the put it off until I'm so disgusted with myself that I just cram it all together and get it done.
Yeah.
Which is why like the vent for that car, that goes right there.
Yep.
Is right there on top of the toolbox because the little tabs broke off and I could probably fix it. But then I was like, I just want to drive the car, and I just put it all back together and said, screw the vent.
See, what it is, it's you put off these extra little things that really won't take any time. And then one day when you really need a win, you do it. And then you get that like poof.
That immediate
Life
like,
hack.
yeah.
You're like, yeah, I got some
Chase
shit done
that
today.
dopamine, baby.
I got some shit done today.
Now that's a perfect segue right there, because I like when I had planned on like being more prepared for this, but then when it was a last minute, like, hey, you want to do this? I was like, okay, yeah, sure. And I only came up with one good question that I wanted to ask, and that was, is there anything like over the course of the years of working on cars and trucks and things like that and being passionate about things, has there ever been like, what is the thing that you've learned that has maybe took the longest but was like the biggest change in you being able to like accomplish your projects and do what you're doing? Or maybe you haven't had it.
Buy the right tools.
Yeah. Yeah.
Because like even when we lowered the thing the other week, my buddy John shows up. He's going to give me a hand with it, right? And I'm over here, I got my breaker bar out and I'm breaking the lug nuts loose. And he comes walking over with the Milwaukee impact. He's like, move, and just pops them all off. And like, I've got the little impacts, but I don't have the, the 1/2-inch drive one that'll actually just bust these lug nuts loose. And so, it's little things like that make the project go just a little bit faster that suddenly make it seem more attainable. And, other than the typical, like, just get out there and do it, stop putting it off, because I think we all could probably learn from that one. But having the right tools for me has been huge.
I can honestly say probably the same thing. So we had that whole debacle with putting an alternator belt or serpentine belt on the Volvo the other week. And I couldn't get the damn belt on, ended up taking the belt back, got another one elsewhere. And, I had it off before with just, 2 wrenches interlocked with each other. Well, finally, it was just like, I fought that motherfucker, and it was so damn tight, I couldn't get it on there. And I finally was like, you know what? Screw it. I'm going to buy a serpentine belt tool. So I went to Harbor Freight and bought the cheapest one they had. I literally held the belt on in like 3 minutes. And I was like, really? Mm-hmm. I was like, I've never needed anything like that before. Why would I need one for this? But it was the first vehicle I've ever had that needed it. And I'm like, whatever. It works great. And I've used that tool when I had to put an alternator on the Hyundai last week. And where one of the bolts where I couldn't get it to move enough with the ratchet, I ended up using the bar and hooked it on there, and it was able to crack the bolt loose on the alternator. And then I was able to get in there with a ratchet. I was like, damn, this so much is still putting out for me.
Have you seen those little, it's like a newer ratchet. I've seen them on TikTok or somewhere that supposedly can move like with just minute amounts of movement. Like it'll ratchet like in super tight
like
spaces.
Like the zero tooth or whatever one.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. They're supposed to be perfect for stuff like that, which I'm curious about.
My Icon ratchets do pretty well, but I was just
fancy
using
with the Icon.
Yeah.
But no, these were actually the one I was using was like a cobalt ratchet. So
okay. For me, the thing that I ended up learning, and I'm still struggling with a little bit, is like I have this. It's like a grandeur thing, I guess. I don't know. I want something to be so spectacular. So like I want to I want to have all the parts and do it like for instance, like I had this KLX 110 that's actually sitting in the storage right now. it needs I think the right side case cover, or the actual right side case. So I need to split the cases, replace one half. But when I do that, I really wanted to put a stroker crank in it, a 4-speed shift drum because it's a 3-speed. I wanted to do an aftermarket CDI box, so it had like a 10,000 RPM rev limiter and a full exhaust and this, that, and the third. And although some of that does make sense to go ahead and do when you've got the cases split, at the end of the day, I could have fixed that bike 5 years ago and then, and had been riding it the whole time. But I was like, no, I have to have all the parts. And then waiting to buy all the parts. Well, then we moved to the other side of Virginia and I didn't have a place to work on it anymore. And
Yeah.
So that's a good point, though. I mean, you said, like, do I wait until it's like, got to get it all fully restored in perfection? And I think the reason I end up putting it off and waiting is because I'm like, oh, I don't want to do double work. So, I mean, exactly to your point, I'm going to already have it apart. Might as well put a cam in it. I was talking about putting these 243 heads I got sitting right up here on this 6.0. That's what I got them for. I was like, well, when I send them to the machine shop, I'll go ahead and get them to, work them a little bit. And it's like, well, if I got the heads off, might as well buy a set of lifters. And everybody's like, why the hell are you going to buy lifters? I'm like, because I already have it apart. Why not put fresh ones in? I mean, it's if I'm going to pull the parts out, why not go ahead and do all the other things that are going to, be entailed to while I have it apart, because I'm going to save myself all this double work, but then it just ends up being no work.
Yeah.
And by then it's like, now I'm just frustrated and I want to go race or I want to go drive the car. And now that entire shelf right there, if you can see it, is saved for a box of 4 Civic taillights that are for my daughter's car. Everything else up there are either ICT billet parts, fuel system components, head bolts, everything else for this motor is all sitting on that shelf right there, because I can't stand to get into it and then realize I have to order a part. That will set me back weeks, not because of the shipping, but because of the fact I had to stop once I started.
Mm-hmm.
Now I've lost momentum. And so I try to have everything here for sure. Yep.
So that was going to be kind of my next thing with that question. Like, I found that depending on what you're doing, at least for me, if you have all the main things that you need, at least let's say if you're like when I did my Caprice last year, I was blowing the car apart, pulling the engine out of it, doing the cam, and I waited till I had all my parts. But then when I went to go work on it, like when I knew it was gonna be a big project, I had a deadline, and I was like, all right, every day I had to make sure I worked on it. And so that was a big thing to prioritize, like even a little bit every day. I'd come out here every day and clean something or work on something. But I actually had the parts for several months. But like this car behind me, when I was first putting it together, I was on a lot tighter budget and I wanted it done right now. So that one, I just kind of did everything as cheap as I could and got it together. And I've driven it quite a bit over the years and had a lot of fun with it. And, kind of like what, some people say, like James was saying about maybe doing work twice. Some people say, I'll buy once, cry once. And I agree with that. And you don't want to work on something twice, but if it sits for 5 or 6 years where you could have been running it after a year, I mean, time, is a lot harder to get back than money.
Yeah.
So, I mean, even though money is a little hard to get back these days, but definitely get things running. I don't know. Like right now, that I can't say a whole lot. That car's full of front end suspension and steering parts for it that's been in the boxes in the back for like 3 years, but the car runs and drives. If I take it apart, it won't drive anymore. So
you're gonna have your weekends coming up, and you can be able to start doing that.
Yeah, that's my plan.
I kept telling him if he lived closer, man, we'd be able to get together and knock all this stuff out on each other's cars, but he just couldn't get him to move to Georgia
or get together and not get anything done.
That's more likely what would happen.
I'm not feeling it tonight.
Colorado Kool-Aid starts flowing.
So, yeah. I don't know what you guys do when you kind of hit that slump for, okay, I need to get out and work on my stuff. And I'm kind of, maybe you've lost momentum on it or whatever, but I can tell you, I did this a couple weekends ago. And that was one of my topics I wanted to talk about and ask you about, Mikey, and it seems like you got to, I know you mentioned that you guys just kind of moved in there, but even now have a decently organized shop. Like I've just got this little 1-car garage in here. 1.5, I guess you'd call it. But I got out here and spent the weekend and took everything off my bench. I took everything off the bench over there in the shelves. I cleaned the shelves and then I put parts back where I wanted them. I put things back, and getting the shop organized suddenly I was able to do a ton more. Partly because I wasn't tripping over crap in the garage, but two, just knowing where everything was just mentally huge for me. So I mean, is that the same for you guys?
Absolutely, dude. I was I don't know if you were on here, James. So I was talking to Chris before we started recording, and I told him like during the week, it looks like Hurricane Helena come through my garage, okay? Because I come up here and I try and do stuff during the day with my little boys, and and it's fun because they've got they'll take the tools out of the toolbox and they'll like I've got two dirt bikes sitting next to me right here that are like they're just like parts bikes, and they'll be over there and they'll trying to wrench on it, and one of them will be hitting it with a hammer, and and it's it's just getting
That's
that garage
awesome,
time with them, But come Friday, so the way this work schedule is working right now is Friday, Saturday, and Sunday is solely dedicated to working in the garage and recording. And so, but basically Friday, I've spent almost all day every Friday since we started this, cleaning the garage back up, putting all the tools back away because it's such a cluster during the week. And then Saturdays when I really like get some work done. But it's also because on Fridays, a lot of times I had 4 storage units there in Verona. With y'all's first guest, Ross, his dad owns Verona Storage. I didn't know that until after the podcast, and I was like, hey, I'm pretty sure. And then we got to talking, but yeah, I had 4 storage units there. And so every Friday I bring some stuff home. And so now I have a mess from me and the kids during the week. I have a mess because I'm bringing more stuff to the shop to also be put away. So it's like a whole thing. But no, I 100,000% agree with that.
That's cool though. I mean, you can kind of meter it bringing the stuff in though. You can, okay, I've got a spot cleaned out to put this stuff and these parts and kind of go do that. And that's when we moved, we were quote unquote homeless for about 3 days because we closed on selling our other house. And then we like stayed with my parents for, 2 or 3 days until we closed on this one. There was another, I think, week or almost a week where we had to put floors in the house because the lady's animals had just like really messed it up. And it was, they'd been wet and just buckled up. So we just had to get the floors done. And so we were like, we were homeless for a bit. I had stuff stored because there were no storage units in our town. Every one of them were like, you couldn't find one that was vacant. So I had stuff across the street from my old house at the neighbor's house next door. I had stuff at my grandparents' house 2 counties over, my parents' place. We just had stuff everywhere. So then like trying to go and bring everything back in, I didn't want to keep them crowded. So it all got just brought into this garage. And then it was like, what do I do with it all? And got rid of some stuff, organized some other stuff. And at least, you've got that opportunity to, you've got the storage units. I know you're paying for them, but you can go pick that up and kind of bring it in when you're ready for it versus that it's all here. Cause that's a tough mountain to climb.
Well, I got one for you, dude. So 3 of those storage units we've had for 5 years.
Wow.
Cause when we moved on to the east side of Virginia. Before we moved, I had it was like a 2,100 square foot house over there behind Dino's in Verona. And I probably had 800 square feet in the basement just packed full of motorcycles and tools. And that was where I had a 1-car garage that I worked out of. And my wife, being the amazing person that she is, was like, hey, don't sell everything, put everything in storage. And then when we get a place, we'll go get it. Well, we was out there for 5 years. Never had a place that had a garage. We moved over there in the middle of COVID. And so all this stuff just stayed in storage the entire time. And then when we finally moved back here, we were legit homeless for 4 months. She stayed at her mom's house, which was a single wide trailer. And I stayed at my dad's house and slept in my little sister's bedroom that she never slept in. So
you got to do what you got to do sometimes, man. It's a crazy world. You don't know how you'll end up in those situations as long as you're, putting one foot in front of the other. And I don't know, like, where you guys are at now, is that kind of where you're going to be, or you?
Yeah, we're going to be here for a minute.
Potentially.
Yeah, we'll be here. Where we're at right now, we're planning on probably being here for at least the next 3 years.
Okay.
And then the next step will be to buy a piece of property and build something. So,
well, I mean, look, man, once YouTube takes off, you're going to be
damn, hey,
right as rain.
Now I know where I need to.
Look, man, having met and talked to you, like I got no doubt, like you got this, man. Especially all the bikes you got plenty of content to get it done, and get your boys involved. It'll be a success.
Yeah,
that's what my wife. She sold me on it because that's what she was like. She was like, look, she said it's not even like you got to invest any money. We bought some microphones, and that was the only investment we made because we've already had the GoPro from OnlyFans.
Yeah.
POV.
Y'all want the chest mount?
We had, I've already got, when we moved to Providence or when we moved to Williamsburg, I had 25 motorcycles and a mini bike. And then now I've got 21. So I got rid of a couple and stuff like that. But, she was like, you've got plenty of projects. You got plenty of stuff to work on. Yeah, we'll have to buy some parts here and there. But she's like, even she brought up you can do the will it run on a couple of these. Because some of these, like you were talking about, it's like those like little things that you need to do, like clean a carburetor on a dirt bike, like literally the one sitting behind me right now. Just needed to clean the carburetor and had the bike running. Now it also turns out it needed a left side crank seal. So when it did start, it's a 2-stroke and it would just run wide freaking open as soon as you started it. So I had to fix that. But, I didn't know that because I just needed to take 20 minutes to clean the carburetor.
Right.
I'll tell you, man, in some of the marketing training that I've done, I don't know if you heard it. So like I'm in IT by trade, so I'm a tech guy. I tell people all the time, I'm the nerdiest hot rodder that's on the internet. Like I promise you won't out nerd or out geek me about anything. But when it comes to like figuring out video content and how to split it up and things like that, I know some websites as well. I can help you out on like what people are searching for, because you hit on a second ago, like cleaning the carburetor.
Yeah.
Right. It's little stuff like that people are Googling to go figure out how to do. And if you hit on like cleaning the carburetor on this particular model motorcycle, there might not be a video about that at all. And, they'll come across it. And that's the thing that kind of gets them, watching. And if you've got informational content, but then you're also, entertaining, you got everything you need, man. And so, that little stuff like that, it's the little really specific things that you make a video on that draw people in. A generic, just, hey, I'm going to talk about motorcycles today.
Yeah.
You'll have a hard time because there's so many channels doing that. But then like that specific thing, and then, they come for that and then they stay because, hey, I kind of like watching this guy, tinker with stuff. And the will it run stuff to me is some of the most fun stuff to watch because it makes me go, there's hope for one of these 8 vehicles in my yard that's not running right now.
Man, I tell you what, I love the will it run series on stuff. Like when I bought that C10, I mean, it was like so fun. I'm like, oh man, I've been watching all these videos lately. That's how I got into watching Vice Grip Garage and what's the other one? Guy's out of Iowa, redhead guy, but he does a lot of resurrections on old cars and stuff too. And I would watch all that stuff all the time, and I'm like, it's just a blast trying to find somebody's like, oh, it was parked because of whatever, and like, let me see if I can't get this thing to run.
No, I mean, that's what sold me on roadkill is watching them in a junkyard and get the thing running right there. They never even walked out of the junk. I'm like, okay, I'm overthinking this stuff because obviously.
Well, and much like what y'all were talking about earlier, I mean, like the whole thing with Freiberger, like he says, don't get it right, just get it running. And I mean, there's a lot of stuff I will say on my Caprice, I took my time and did a lot of work and made sure things were right because I drive the car a lot and kids are with me. I learned a lot. When I put that car together years ago, learned a lot in the process, and there's a lot of stuff on it that's not right now. But then the cars before that I've done is kind of the same progression. I would do shit and I'm like, man, this thing is like, why isn't it running worth a shit? It's pouring oil out everywhere. Or I'm like learning how to do timing on stuff. And it's just a, progression over time, a little bit of growth, I guess that experience. And, but either way, I mean, the more you do that, over the years, you can kind of learn like, all right, what do we absolutely have to have? What are the bare essentials instead of spending all that extra time on bullshit that doesn't really matter?
Yeah.
When, we're just trying to get it to run off the bare minimum. And I've like that C10 I had. I mean, I had it running, it ran great. And I had a 2.5 gallon gas can zip tied in the engine bay. And people were like, oh my God, you're going to do that? I'm like, why not? It runs. I mean, I'm just getting it to yard drive here. And people were like, well, you can't make it run like that. Watch.
No.
I mean, I really like those Will It Run videos a lot.
Yeah.
I try to convince myself to be the don't get it right, just get it running guy. And I end up not being, because maybe it is the ADHD, right? But maybe I just need it. Maybe I need to do my next tattoo just right on my forearm. So I have to look at it all day.
Don't get it right, get it running. Yeah, no, that's I think that was part of like my thing growing up, and then like I collected a shit ton of projects that all needed very simple things, and then but it was that I got to do so much. It's not just, I can't just get it running. I got to do like all this extra stuff, and then you get overwhelmed
while you're in there.
Yeah,
it is really easy to get overwhelmed, and like this whole Volvo out here, it runs great. I love the car, but it leaks so much fluids from everywhere. I don't park on my asphalt driveway because it leaks so much shit. I went to my mom's the other day and she was like, I think your Volvo is leaking something, because there were spots in the driveway. I said, yeah, I said, if it ain't oil under it, ain't oil in it. So
it's like a Harley.
Yeah, I checked it the other day. Yeah, I checked it the other day and there wasn't even anything on the dipstick. And I was like, well, I probably need to fix that. So
like, I check the oil every time I stop. I check to make sure there's still some dripping.
Exactly. Yeah.
Dang, good deal.
So what kind of was your, I mean, I know we talked about it a little bit. You mentioned, was it Puddin's Fab Shop and some others, but, what other inspirations did you have kind of getting into the YouTube game and wanting to do that? Anything else?
So, yes, there was a handful of things. I don't know if I necessarily say inspirations, more like aspirations. One of those things is I would love to be able to get to a point. So Early Cycle Center, a local Yamaha dealership, I worked for them before we moved over to the other side of Virginia. I've been good friends with that family that owns that dealership for a very long time, basically since I was a kid. And they're very near and dear to me. And they, even before I worked there, they always pretty much charged me cost for everything. And then since I've worked there, it's pretty much, I just pay cost for everything. I don't ask for it. I don't expect it. But Sammy, the owner, he just takes care of me like that. And I greatly appreciate that. But so I could go up there and I can get any brand new Yamaha. I could go up there and I could say, Sammy, can I go ride it? Let me try it out. And not only will he let me ride it, but he'll let me ride it like I stole it. Like, he don't care. Like I'm not gonna tear it up. It's not gonna be damaged when I'm done or anything like that. But like, he knows where I'm at with my riding ability and things like that, and he trusts me, and he'll let me go out and ride it like if it was mine a little bit. And anything they have that comes in that's used, I can go up there and be like, hey man, can I try that out? And he's like, yeah, sure. But one thing that I think would be awesome is, I'm a diehard Yamaha guy, but I would love to be able to get to a point to where maybe some companies would reach out and say, hey, you want to try this out? And I'd be like, yeah, but I'm not going to lie. If I think it's trash, I'm going to say it's trash. But that's one of the aspirations. Before we started recording, we were talking about Theo Vaughn. And I said I had something about that. One of my aspirations would be to get famous enough on YouTube that Theo Vaughn would want to interview me. Yeah. That would be awesome.
That'd be a good one.
You got to have goals, man. That's a heck of one, because he's great. He's hilarious,
Dude,
man.
It's hilarious.
That's awesome.
Yeah. But yeah, and then
all right, Chris,
go ahead.
We're gonna go for the moon. We're gonna tag him when we post this video. So he's got to hear that Mikey wants to get interviewed by Theo.
I mean, aspiring motorcycle YouTuber. Come on, man. There's got to be a market for that. Somebody's gonna watch. I mean, he did just interview the future vice president of the United States. So, but he's done carnies too.
So, are you gonna do like mini moto vlog type stuff, or are you just more informational, working on things?
I want to do
some stuff every now and then?
So that was like one of the things getting into this. Something I didn't think I would ponder that much, that I ended up having to ponder a lot, was like, what was I going to call the YouTube channel? And I ended up going with Mikey's Fab Shop. And my wife was like, that's a little on the nose, because that's just like Puddin's Fab Shop. And I was like, I get that. And that's good. But like, I don't want to be...
You don't pigeonhole yourself in
I don't want to pigeonhole myself, because, I'm a diehard. I love motorcycles, but I also love classic cars. For a long time, my daily driver was a 79 Chevrolet K10 that I still have, that I like to work on, and I'd like to do like a nice restoration on that. Like a restoration, I think, is the better term.
Yeah.
Okay.
But, I like doing leather work. You can't see it on my lamp.
Oh, that's cool.
You can't see it on my table over here, but I've got a lamp that I made out of a female bust that I got from the mall one time. You got to twist the nipples to turn the lights on. You know,
That's a very Theo Vaughn kind of thing. So you're going to have to take that with you when he interviews you.
I've got a rocking chair outside that's made out of old motorcycle tires that I bolted together to make a rocking chair. So, like, I just love working with my
That's
hands.
a sweet idea.
And I don't want, so I want to do the moto vlogs. I've recorded a little bit with that, but I don't have a mic set up yet. So it's just riding.
Okay.
But that is part of the goal is like, as I complete projects, take them and do like little rundowns and run them around, maybe do a couple burnouts. Everybody loves to do a burnout.
Yeah. I know some moto vloggers. So a good friend of mine, he's a moto vlogger. He rocks their stickers on his bikes. If you know, can't do wheelies. Bruce Crow.
Where's he from?
Yeah. But this area. He lives in Grottoes area. But yeah, he's got an H2 and he's got what is it? KLX 300 supermoto right now.
Nice.
So yeah. Yeah, I've known him for years.
Yeah, I'll have to look him up.
Can do wheelies. Yeah.
That's
He
awesome, man.
sends me stuff all the time.
Definitely don't limit yourself, right? I mean, if you look at, once you, especially if you've got a following, right, who just like watching you, right?
Mm-hmm.
The truth is, look at Cletus McFarland. He's flying helicopters and stuff now. He's doing Crown Vics. He's got a Ford Raptor that he says is the best truck ever made, right? And he was a diehard LS guy forever, still races LSs, right? But people aren't going, oh, he likes Fords, I ain't going to watch him anymore. He's doing whatever
he wants.
Life inspires him to do. And the truth is, that is the whole reason any of us do any of this, is the dream that one day we can spend our life doing what we want to do every day. And, and you're going to do stuff that you don't want to do from time to time, right? But at the end of the day, like having that freedom to go, I want to learn to fly a helicopter. All right, shit. He went and learned to fly a helicopter and got paid to do it. So, I mean, that's pretty sweet.
Yeah.
That's the dream.
Yeah, don't limit yourself, because I could see you going from, making a video about how you made a rocking chair, right? And then kind of doing another one and going, all right, can't save that bike, so we're going to turn it into something cool. And then, take the parts from it and make cool shit out of it. I mean, that'd be fun to watch.
Now I know where I need to go to get an old motorcycle and where to store it, so that way Holly doesn't buy it. I don't know what you're talking about. That's Mikey's.
So, Chris, have you ever had anything other than the mini bike?
No.
That's not true.
Right. Mikey, what?
Didn't you have a YZ125?
No, I didn't.
With Andrew and them? You never had a dirt bike back then? Oh,
no, that was Kevin. Kevin did.
Yeah,
Kevin had one. I was too poor to have one, but then I got the cars and
Who's
girls,
in the
and
same
I'm like,
boat?
man, I'm really poor.
And then you were really poor.
Yeah, I'm really. Now I got 4 kids, and I'm really poor. That's
So, Mikey, what was your first?
So, funny story. When I was in elementary
That's
school.
kind of we like.
Yeah. When I was in elementary school, I got suspended from school a lot. I mean, a whole lot. And ironically, I was like in the 2nd grade, I think. No, I guess it was like in the 1st grade. Get suspended from school, get home. It's kind of like this time of year, like probably around October or so. Get suspended from school. My dad leaves pissed off. Go inside. I'm sitting in my room. Later on that night, I hear something coming down the road, and I go and I look outside, and it's a go-kart. And he had ended up going and buying this go-kart off of some guys that lived down the road from us in the neighborhood. And I got it. And that was like, the idea was, hey, stay out of trouble and you can ride the go-kart. Well, then we fast forward. I want to say that was 1st grade. And then I think it was 2nd grade. Christopher Drumheller had a MX100, and I got suspended from school. And my dad left, and apparently I found out later on that my mom bought this bike, and they thought that maybe if I had a dirt bike, my dad had just bought a KDX 200. They were like, well, y'all can go ride together, and maybe that'll keep you out of trouble. And I was like, well, no, it didn't keep me out of trouble, but it just fueled this love that I had for motorcycles and bicycles and basically anything with wheels. And over the years, people would be like, "Oh, you'll get your driver's license and you'll stop caring about dirt bikes." And I was like, I doubt it. I don't think y'all know which end of the spectrum I'm on here. Once I'm committed, I'm
hyperfixation is
committed.
real. I'm going to key in on one part of that story because when we go to cutting this up into little reels, which we got to do a better job of, it's literally going to sound like you said, I got suspended from school, so my dad left, and like there was a cause and effect there. So just to clarify, he didn't leave because you got suspended from school. So
No,
I would hope.
no.
But
he went and bought a minute. You bought you a go-kart.
Yeah, he went
So you got rewarded for getting suspended.
yeah, that's what I say. Next time I want a cool toy, I'm going to go get suspended. That's what I'm talking about.
But yeah.
No, that's super cool. So what about like on the like street bikes, like, riding on the road? What was the first thing you, and how old were you? Because can you get them at 16 or could you?
No, I didn't. And I didn't have money like that when I was 16. And then I will say, so kind of like comes back to the same thing about getting projects done is I like would try and save money and I would try and do this and I would try and do that. And I'll like missed out on a lot of years of riding on the street because I was like, I had to have like this certain bike. And so the first bike I rode on the street was a YZF 600R, not an R6, a 600R, which was like, they're more like kind of, it still had a full fairing, but it was a sport bike. Maybe what you could maybe consider a sport touring, sort of, because you had a little more upright position. But as far as the first bike that I had that was on the street that was mine was I bought a so it'd been in 2014, and I was 21 or 22. No, I've been 21. I bought a brand new Yamaha Bolt, which is kind of like a Sportster, and bought it brand new from Early's, and I still have it to this day. It's over there in that corner. Runs like a top.
That's cool. All right, so your cover page for YouTube though, it's got to have the bike that you had from new. That's still yours. You got to have that on there, man.
No,
be sweet.
So, what kind of bikes are? So, like, I guess I don't know if you like for bike guys, if y'all break you up into like, if you in like what type, like cruisers or sport bikes or dirt bikes or whatever. I mean, what kind of bike guy are you? I mean, what do you enjoy the most?
All of them.
No.
Honestly,
I get that.
Honestly,
that sounds like me and Chris when it comes to the cars. We're like, look, I literally was on Marketplace earlier and saw a 1985 Toyota Cressida wagon.
Yeah,
and it's so sweet that I was like, I would get it and like just keep it really nice as like a survivor car and drive it to car shows. Because I'm like, I love it all. And that car's super cool. I'll post a picture of it because if somebody's got $4,500, they can come get it. I think.
Yeah.
Pretty good deal. But anyway.
I would really like to have an FZ07.
Oh,
or some sort.
Oh, dude.
Or some sort of dirt bike to either like a supermoto or build a supermoto.
Yeah, but see, that's an MT-07 is because they don't call them FCs anymore. They're MTs.
Right. It's an MT.
Yeah. But the MT-07 is like that bike is so back in this XS 650 that I'm working on. That bike was like the Swiss Army knife of motorcycles back when they came out. You could use it. You could flat track race it. You could hill climb it. There is some people that did like, because back then, like in the 60s, there was dirt bikes, but back then, like the big classes that people were racing, like Triumphs and BSAs and things of that nature. Like that bike could do it all. It could road race. It could be a daily commuter. It could do anything. The MT-07 is the new XS 650. You can do anything with that bike. And and when you ride it, if you've ever ridden like a 450 like motocross bike or anything like that it's like riding in a 450 that will also do like 150 miles an hour. Like it's so torquey and light and nimble.
They sound great.
God, I for the longest time I swore them down. I was going to buy one just to put a slip-on exhaust on it and start it in my garage, because it is like one of the best sounding motorcycles in my opinion, like to ever exist. It sounds so good.
well, and I've had people like, oh, well, if you're gonna do that, why don't you get like the MT-09 or whatever? I'm like, no, it's a different vibe for me. I don't need a super fast bike. I'm the kind, like, I just want something to maybe rip around town with every now and then, maybe beat around some back roads. I'm not somebody that wants to go on the interstate, do 150 on a motorcycle, but
and then
I just,
So I was literally having a conversation with somebody the other day about that I'm really curious to see like where the street bike market goes like in the next like 5 years. Because there is the big push for electric bikes, which they're at, like Zero. I think they're based out of California. They've been around since like 1998 or something. They've been around forever. I've only seen one in person one time, and that was at Jarman's over in Charlottesville when they were still open. Somebody traded it in. Now Kawasaki's got the new Ninja 400 hybrid. But with all that being said, there has been like a really big push in the States, at least, for small displacement bikes. So like the R3, the Ninja 400 and 300, the CBR 250, and now I think they've got a 300 also. What's really, really cool about that is that in the racing side of things, those classes, I haven't been to the track, so I can't say firsthand experience, but from my understanding, the 300 to 400 cc class is absolutely insane. There's tons of people there ready to race. And then there's also not only newbies, but then there's also people that were racing the 600s and the leader bikes that are getting up there in age. And they're like, oh, now it's time to slow down. So then they get these 300s and 400s, and then they're going just as fast on those things. It is nuts.
Yeah, well, I mean, technology advances, and I'm sure those bikes might be a little bit lighter than the bigger bikes. And
they're considerably lighter. I mean, they're like dirt bike.
Oh, I'm sure.
Dirt bike.
Wow. Well,
that's crazy.
And you figure it's probably at a better price point to get newbies in.
Significant.
And the bike, I'm sure at this point, if it's starting to become more of a racing thing, I'm sure the aftermarket's growing. So then you can get people in to start racing and then not be stupid fast, and then you can grow. So now they're actually putting out parts for them. So I mean, that's pretty cool.
Well, and then like there's people that like, so they're getting into the racing and they're not leaving the class. They're just staying in that class because it is so competitive. Because even as you get faster, there are still so many people that are so much faster than you.
Mm-hmm.
You have like a bunch of really tight races where you've got like 8 people on the track all at the same time, turn it like, a second behind one another. That's some great racing, and that's what you're going for. So not only is it cheap, but you can also, you get that good experience. But that was what I was going to say is like, you could even consider buying like an MT-03 and potentially get what you want out of that, because those things, it's a parallel twin, and it's torquey just like a dirt bike too, and they're a blast, and they'll run like 80 mile an hour.
Do they sound amazing?
I haven't heard one with an exhaust on it yet, but I would venture to guess, probably.
I mean, it's kind of like the chop. You got to have it that sounds great.
Mm-hmm. It ain't gonna chop like that.
I mean, the cam can perform great, but if it don't have some chop to it, what's the point?
Hell yeah.
Like I'm not out here pushing for 7-second quarter miles or 8-second quarter miles. And I seen a reel earlier. This guy was like, my view racing then versus now. And he's got like behind the seat, and it's like an old Honda CRX that's like stripped down. It's like sheet metal dash, and he's just getting it, going around the track. It's rattling like crazy. And then now he's in like a really nice, I don't know what the newer car was, because I literally was watching it right before we did this. But I was reading the comments, and everybody's like, which one did you enjoy more? And he's like, look, that car was 8th as fast as what I'm driving now, and 8 times as fun to go out and race, and I consistently hear it from drag racers. They're like, I was having so much more fun when I was running 10s and 11s out with my buddies, and, we were building the car and doing that, and the push to steadily go faster and faster and faster. And I'm definitely, this goes back to the ADHD thing. Like, once this car, if it ever sees a 10, 9, 9, 9, 9, 9, 9, 9, it doesn't matter. I'll be on to building the next thing that I want to get to that level, and or maybe do something different with it, do autocross, whatever. I'll never be the one who's like, all right, I got to keep pushing that one to its limits. Like, I'll be like, all right, I'm happy with it. Done. Finally, Well,
and it goes back to that saying also that it's more fun to drive slow cars fast than, fast cars fast, because one, it's going to be a lot more expensive when it breaks.
Me and Cole Young.
Yeah, Cole's great.
Me and him were just talking about that.
We need to have him on one day.
Yes. But no, me and him were just talking about that the other day. It's way more fun to drive a slow car fast than it is trying to drive a fast car fast. I mean,
yeah, I've got him on a T-shirt.
No.
Yeah, we made some T-shirts and put him on it. I made a meme with him in it, and one of the guys in our group made T-shirts, and me and Michael Kelly have the only ones that were ever made, and I wear it every now and then.
Limited edition.
Dude, let me borrow that one time.
He didn't know that we had them, and we all went to Michael's one night several years ago to watch the Freedom 500.
Yeah,
and me and Michael showed up wearing that shirt, both of us.
Awesome.
And so then when Colton showed up, he was like, "God damn it!"
That's great.
I've got a picture of him too, laid down the hood of my Camaro, pulling his shirt up, giving me the finger, and that thing has been circled around the internet so many times. It's great.
So that's the next T-shirt.
He's like, I regret making that. That was the one we were going to do that picture because it was so epic. But I'm like, it does show a lot of Colton. So, whatever he's doing, I don't want to, that's not anything bad, but I get it. It was a little bit much. So I'm like, yeah, we're not going to make a shirt out of that one, but I'll send it to you guys.
So speaking of that, so the only dirt bike I've ever ridden was a little XR80 that I had when I was 11 or 12. My parents, grandparents, like everybody pooled money, and it was like, all right, there's a local motorcycle shop, sold dirt bikes and stuff. They came home with this little XR80 because my dad wanted me to go ride with him. He had a Honda Rancher 350, just a little, four-wheeler, and he would go ride. And he was like, now you can, we can go out and ride. We'd go ride the power lines and stuff. I remember, man, I was getting it on that thing because the coolest thing they ever did, they were trying to keep people from going down the power line. So they made a bunch of mounds of dirt. So cars couldn't drive back down there, but my dirt bike could. And we rode, and they cleared this whole area. I mean, it was literally looked like a huge like motocross course. Like they cleared it all so their trucks could drive back there. And it was, so we would go ride a long time, and Dad would ride the four-wheeler, and sometimes we'd switch off, and it was hilarious seeing him on the little XR80, getting it through there. But, we were riding back, we were headed home, and I'd been working up the courage all day to really jump that hill. Like, cause I wasn't a risk taker kid at all. And so I was like, all right. So finally he said, just, if you're going to do it, just, keep the front end up and, do it. But, no pressure. And so we were headed home, and I was like, and I was nailing it. I went through all the gears, and I hit it, and I got airborne. I was like, woo, this is awesome. And then I hit the next one, kept going, and I said, this isn't awesome, because I started to dip forward.
This isn't as much fun.
And this one isn't as cool. And when it hit, I went over the handlebars, and luckily I had a full face, helmet on and all that. And so when I started riding a street bike, everybody was like, nah, man, those full face helmets are for losers. I'm like, look, I have been on the receiving end of like my face scraping the ground. Like that would suck if it were dirt, especially if it were pavement. So, but I remember Dad said he saw the bike go to flipping, and I'm sliding. And when I got up, like my face was like pushed out, and he was like, he just saw black. He's like, oh my God, he's like bleeding from the mouth. This is bad. And I like pulled out a bunch of Georgia red clay, like a dip, and like slung it down. It had like, the helmet had been shoveling it into my mouth as I'm sliding. So the first thing that hit the ground was my knee, and it swelled up and was all bruised and nasty. But other than that, I was okay. I had a tire mark across my back, so when the bike had flipped, it caught me.
I got you.
I don't know if my mom's ever heard this full story, so, and I know she does listen sometimes, so I have to put a little sorry mom graphic up there. But we made it from like Wednesday. That was like Wednesday after school. I had a baseball game Saturday. We made it from Wednesday to Saturday, and I think he was like making sure I took an Epsom salt bath every day and everything. But Saturday rolled around, it was like, Dad, I can't go play baseball. And so when he told Mom, he's like, yeah, you can't go play. I remember waking up to him throwing the covers back, and my mom going, oh my God. And like, because it was all black and blue. And I was like, well, cat's out of the bag now. But
yeah.
So
I knocked my teeth out when I was a kid on my go-kart. So yeah, I was following my grandmother's neighbor. He had an XR 200, and we were ripping it through the woods. Well, and I was on my go-kart, my Red Fox 2-seater go-kart with no roll bar. And I was getting it through it. I wasn't big enough to where I could sit all the way up against the back of the seat and my feet would reach. So like I was pulled up on the steering wheel so I could, my feet would reach the pedals, and like my back was like a foot off of the seat. And so I remember we were like ripping it through the woods, and I'm like bouncing along, and it didn't have no suspension, and the steering would stick every now and then from where I had to run into a car with it one time. And and I hit a bump and the steering stuck, and I plowed into a tree stump and hit my mouth on the steering wheel.
Oh, I can feel that happening.
Yeah, and I remember he helped me turn the go-kart around, which several years before that, I knocked out the other front tooth in the bathtub. So I was already missing one. And so we were coming back towards the house, and my uncle was getting a pool put in. It was an above-ground pool, and they're out there filling it. And here we come back. He's on the dirt bike, and I'm on the go-kart, just blood running down my face, just crying. My gums were all purple before it hit my mouth. Yeah, it was a good time. I've got a little nick in that steering wheel now for my mouth hit it.
So you said that you started wearing full face, or you stuck with wearing full face after having that accident. This is the High Octane Dad's podcast, and it wasn't until I had my kids that I religiously wore a full face helmet. And I still wear my beanie from time to time. But
by the time, so I had a half shell, and depending on what we were doing, if I was just riding, somewhere where there wasn't gonna be a lot of traffic and things like that, or if when we were doing a charity ride, so like I've got a bunch of other bikes around me, which I guess in theory still could have something happen where a whole bunch of you start going down together, but
maybe not. I thought your camera died. It froze up.
So, I'd wear like the half shell on those, but for the most part, I stuck with a full face. But by the time I bought my street bike, I had kids, right? Yeah. So I don't think my youngest was born yet, but I was kind of casually shopping for a bike, and I found a Honda. I kept looking at Honda Shadows, and everybody's like, you don't want a Shadow. Like, it's not going to be as fast as you want or whatever. And I was like, I don't necessarily need fast. I just want a bike to go and ride. And then I came across a Magna 750.
Yeah.
And I was like, oh, well, it's a 750 also. So I went and test rode it, and before I even, went shopping for bikes, I went and took a course where they teach you to ride. It's like a classroom thing, and then at the end of it, you get a voucher to go get your license. So you don't even have to go take the test at the DMV, and that was great. Plus, you got a insurance discount. So took that, and so I had my license. So I went and test rode the thing, and I was like, okay. It was a little more than I bargained for, really, what I expected out of a 750. And so I was like, all right. So then I started researching what they were and realized, okay, it's a V4, so it was a lot like a sport bike motor on a cruiser frame, which was perfect for me. Cause light to light, my brother on his street glide, like we could, I could keep up with him. He wasn't losing me in traffic, with a street glide. And so his sounded a lot cooler, but But yeah, so that's the only street bike I've ever owned. And when I sold it, I did that. I think I've got a picture of my youngest sitting on it in the garage. So he was a little over 1, but he wasn't quite 2 when I sold it. And I always wore the full face, and I wore the jacket and everything else because, like you said, thinking of your kids, right? My wife, she didn't care for it at all. She rode on it with me twice, and then after that, it just kind of sat a lot. So. Yeah, I mean, it changes your perspective on things a lot.
I wholeheartedly.
I wouldn't mind having another dirt bike,
dude,
but I probably won't buy another street bike.
TTR 125, dude. It's got clutch on it, electric start. It's fast enough to get her, but not so fast to kill yourself. I mean, it's perfect.
Yeah,
small enough your kids.
I don't have anything to jump, but I got 2.5 acres here, so we got room to at least get out and rip, around the yard a little bit.
Hey, my mini bike will do 50, so.
That little thing rips.
I'm supposed to be getting another one. I think we had talked about a while ago. My mom's cousin reached out to me, and they had one in their building that they had when they were kids. It's from the 60s.
Oh, dude.
And it's a Fox Sprint, I think it's what it is.
Yeah.
It's lime green, and my uncle ran over there and picked it up for me. So when they come up for Thanksgiving, he's going to bring it to me. So
are you going to come to the mini bike races?
Yeah, I'd like to. When and where?
Up in Cremora, dude.
I want video of this.
There's so my ex-brother-in-law, which I still consider my brother-in-law, his dad has like 2.5 acres or something like that over in Cremora, and he dug out a more or less it's an oval track. It's got like a little chicane on the backside of it, going through some trees. But then we all went and got mini bikes, and we all went out there and started having like little grudge matches and shit on this on this dirt track. And
I'm all for that.
yeah, I'm
Heck
reigning champ. Just so you know.
Heck yeah.
Yeah.
Naturally.
Heck yeah. Yeah, I'm all for that.
Yeah.
That'd be a good time.
I keep telling
this
dude.
one I'm gonna
Go ahead.
try to get this thing running with the motor it came with, but I may end up just putting a Predator on it eventually. But I mean, if I can clean it up and just get it running, I don't want to make it fast. I figure I'll just bebop around the neighborhood with it.
Yeah, but those old
Just be a
flatheads, I mean, you
vintage
can
bike.
almost always get them things running.
Yeah, well, like I said, it's got a Tecumseh on it, from what I understand.
Yeah.
But I've also got a flathead rig sitting in the garage here that was on my go-kart, my go-kart as a kid that I knocked my teeth out with. So, but it runs, but I need to get a carb and everything for it. Yeah. My kids are like, when you can get this go-kart going again? I'm like, look,
Okay.
I did a lot of dumb stuff on this thing. It's probably my back screw up these days because I remember jumping it.
When I was editing last week's episode, my wife was laying in the bed while I was editing, and I made the comment, well, we're gonna have to go and try to find the kids a go-kart ride around here. All I heard was, "Oh, really?" So, yeah. So now she knows.
Yeah, awesome.
Man, that'd be awesome.
So you talked earlier about that you had a hard time, I guess, coming up with a name and all that. And I'll admit, like, I think Chris and I probably sent 100 names back and forth before we hit on High Octane Dads, and that was the one that just kind of felt like us and what we wanted this to be. So, what'd you land on? So people can look
Mikey
it up.
Stab Shop. It's
Stab Shop.
Mikey. It's Mikey _ Fab _ Shop.
Okay.
Yeah.
Sweet. And we'll be sure. Like we'll tag it and all of that when we post this. But I started the High Octane Dads Facebook group yesterday just so people could. Because otherwise they couldn't really post like their project unless we made a thread and said, okay, post your stuff up here. So I think for the group, that'll be better. Folks can just go and interact. And, I hope people go there and ask advice, right? Like if you're in there and somebody's got a question about a dirt bike or something, right? Like having all these people that can share ideas and help other dads get their projects going. Like that's really what I want that to be. So
it's like
that'd be awesome. But I mean, and we've talked about that.
Friends.
We've talked about that a lot, that the forum days being gone kind of sucks. But, Facebook groups are the new iteration of that, and making sure that we, keep that going and use it as a place to ask questions and share your projects and your wins and just communicate.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
So. But I know we're about an hour and a half. I'm closing on that time. Being a dad, it's about time to tuck these kids in. They got school tomorrow and not much longer before I got to tuck me in because I don't stay up late. Chris knows that. But yeah, anything else you want to throw out there? We're gonna have to have you back because I mean we're already 30 minutes past what we normally record, which I knew episode 20 would be big, but it's just great chatting with you, and so you're gonna have to come back on for sure.
Well, yeah, and I'd love for Chris to come out here and record with me, maybe at the shop, because I have a hole upstairs that I am slowly getting set up as like, kind of like a hangout spot. They left a bar here, so I've got a bar set up and stuff up there, even though I don't drink.
Why didn't you lead with that?
Yeah, Chris would have been there tonight. Like,
but no, I'd love to come back. This was a good time, and
I thoroughly enjoyed it.
But
one thing I have to say, because I've been looking at it the whole time I'm here in my video, and just for Kevin's sake, if you have listened this long, I will know, because that Christmas tree will go up probably the first week in November in that big box up there.
That's our Christmas tree. I can see it. Go away.
We bought a 9.5 foot last year just to.
That's what she said.
Hey, that's when Christmas starts for us. November 1st, brother.
Heck yeah, dude.
1 month ain't enough.
Dude, the minute Halloween is passed, look, Thanksgiving is nothing but pre-Christmas dinner with the family. All right, like I'm eating deviled eggs and collard greens, but we're already putting up lights.
I'm pretty sure I haven't gone over to see. My sister lives across the road from me now, and she usually has her Christmas tree up by well before Halloween.
So Kevin might at least approve. I was talking to my wife because I was at a yard sale 6 months ago. This lady had a whole bunch of Dale Jr. and Dale Earnhardt like Christmas ornaments and just all kind of randoms. And I was like, how much for all of this? She sold me the whole bag of it for like $5. And so I've got a whole bunch of Dale Jr. Christmas ornaments and stuff over here.
Oh, wow.
And my wife goes, what would be great for that? Black Christmas tree. And then you could put all your NASCAR stuff on it. And I was like, you're right. And she goes, and you know what else? I could go ahead and put it up and put Halloween stuff on it and put orange lights in it before Christmas. And I was like, I can get behind this if I have a whole NASCAR tree that I can put Dale Earnhardt stuff on. So,
hey, I will say this. I'm actually decorated for Christmas already. I decorated last year and
never took it down.
Yeah.
The right way.
But the lights, you can change the colors. So
that's a whole thing now. Govee or something makes a whole bunch of like 24 or 24/7, 365 lights. You just leave them up all the time and just change them.
They're
for
left
whatever.
up. I just don't have them plugged up. Now I'll probably plug them up and be like, damn, I got to take a shit down now.
I'm into that though.
Yeah,
I like
last
having
year-
the tree that like you can just redecorate it per the season. I kind of like it.
Yeah, I do too. I just, this year got really busy at the first of the year and we were working a ton. And then I remember it was like wet. I'm like, I'm not going out there when it's wet and fucking windy and falling off a damn ladder. But I think the year before I took them down because I bought a whole bunch of those little clips that go in the gutters. The year before I unhooked it and just like, watch out, whipped it. And then I went and come down.
I got to buy a new box of those every year because I'm so good putting them up. I'm not great taking them down. They never.
You need stuff your patience.
So I'm sure that if I put,
Right.
So I've got I think the last time I bought a big box of them. So I got like a big Ziploc bag full of them. But I'm sure when I go to plug this thing up, there'll probably be a bunch of lights that don't work, and I'll probably have to just whip that one down and put new ones up.
Since I'm sure I offended Kevin's soul that I'm going to be putting my Christmas tree up, I will say Trailer Park Motorsports on YouTube, he makes a calendar every year after LS Fest. I've got mine hanging over there. I think October is Mark Brusky's car, Brewski. He's on October, but Kevin is adamant on his calendars. It says right at the end of October, like, it's not Christmas yet. And then like all through November, it's like, nope, don't put the tree up yet. Like he's got little notes in there about not putting the Christmas tree up till after Thanksgiving. So I always chuckle when I do put it up because I know it would drive Kevin crazy.
We don't put it up. Like, I want to say we usually put ours up right around Thanksgiving just because of having the kids. It's a lot. So, but usually my wife, like, we get tired of it. By the time Christmas is over, we're like, all right, we're ready for this fucking tree to be out of the way and all this extra shit to be out of the way. And literally, like, it's been like the day after Christmas and all our shit's up and put away already. And I'm like,
no, we put it off.
Whatever.
I've never had it put away before February.
Now, I try to get her to keep her. I say, all right, look, at least leave it up until New Year's. But a lot of times she'll try to do it, we're being off. So that way we can do it while we're already off. And I'm like, I get it, but I mean, whatever.
We were always, it was the superstition. You had to have it down by New Year's.
Yeah.
And put away. And so we do usually try to do that. But yeah, like we put it off as long as we can. I think sometimes we're like New Year's Eve, we're taking it all down and putting it away because I mean, Christmas, man, that's my time of year. It's the only time I make sure I've got to have leave off of work. I don't want to be, I want that week with the kids. It's a huge thing for me. So
I don't know. I like Christmas, but I don't like the cold weather. So,
hey,
it don't get that cold here.
James, do y'all? So for us, it's 93.7. Murphy, Sam, and Jody in the morning, or maybe it's 93.1. It's 93.1. Do you have a go-to holiday radio station that you listen to? Because they typically start November 1st, nonstop Christmas music all day long, Christmas themed, like talking topics and things like that, and stuff coming up, movies, whatever. You got one that you go to?
Well, I'll be honest with you. When we bought my truck and then we bought my wife's car, we both had the options for Sirius XM in those. And so the last probably 4 years, we've always just had the satellite radio stuff.
Okay.
And, but there definitely are some FM stations that do it. And I'm going to have to find them again this year because they're not getting me this year. Every year I call to cancel Sirius XM because it's like $20 a month. It's stupid. But then they're like, but for $60 for the whole year, you can keep it. And I'm like, $60. Okay. And then I pay for it for another year every year. But I'd rather pay for Spotify Premium for like the family because we get, there's a lot more you can do with that. So, yeah, but there are some, and we definitely do. I mean, when Christmas is here, it's on the Sirius XM Christmas stations for sure. We do Whamageddon. I don't know if you guys participate or not, but
I don't know what that is.
it's seeing how far can you go from, I think, December 1st until Christmas out of your friend group. Like, who can go the longest without hearing Last Christmas by Wham? Like, live in the wild, in a store, on the music, radio, whatever. Not somebody played it for you to get you out, but like legitimately it was going to play anyway, and you just can't get away from it.
Right.
How long can you go? Because I think I made it about 3 days last year.
Well, that's something we can bring up when it gets that time. Maybe we can bring that up, because I've never thought of that.
Yeah, it's like Whamageddon.com. There's a whole countdown timer and a website and everything. It's a whole, like, it's this phenomenon that everybody like knows about now, it seems.
I didn't know.
I know about it now.
Yeah, except for my guys at work too. I said it in a meeting the other day. I was like, "You guys got to get ready for Whamageddon," and they all just kind of stared at me over the Teams call, like, "What the heck are you talking about?"
You know what they were probably
weirdo?
saying? Probably like, "You fucking nerd."
It would not be the first or last time I've heard that one. So,
So did you ever see the Hot Tub Time Machine movies?
Yeah.
I think it was in the second one. They're in there like, "You're a fucking nerd," and just singing it. It's like a 15-second song, and I'm like, "Oh, this is great."
nice.
James, I want to tell you that you brought up the XR80. I literally have one of the dirt bikes that the kids work on is an XR80. That's a parts bike.
Nice.
And I've been thinking about putting a Predator 212 in it. There's a YouTube channel, Mike Festiva or Festi, something like that. He built one. It was an XR 100, virtually the same chassis and everything, and put a Predator 212 motor in. It was fairly simple to do. And I've been thinking about doing that with this one because I don't have a motor for this frame. So I've been thinking about that.
Yeah. That'd be wild. I definitely want to see that. I'll tell you, I got a guy, Gary, that's on my friends list. He's got a Honda. It's an old, like, CB 360.
Oh, hell yeah. I've got one of those.
Dude, it's like super clean, super nice. He rides it all around. He's got some buddies who've all got similar bikes, not the same model, but real similar. Like, they'll get done up in, like, you know, their suit, suspender, coat, jacket, and they'll go ride downtown and get something to eat, get coffee, whatever. And I'm like, that's a thing. There's an event where guys get together. I don't think it's necessarily like exclusively cafe racers, but they get together, and I think it's predominantly cafe racers. But they get suited up but I cannot remember what it's called, like the Gentleman's Ride or some shit like that. I don't know if they still do, but they did it for a few years, especially when cafe racers was like super, super popular. Yeah. I'll tell him about your channel, and I'm sure he'll dig it for sure, especially if you've got some of those bikes and things like that. So like I said, it sounds like you've got a lot of potential content, things that, you'll be able to cover and do that people are definitely going to be interested in. So I'm excited to see it for sure. I will tell you the one thing that maybe we learned, like, we recorded episode 1, edited and posted, and then we recorded episode 2, and we're still doing it that way, right? And I'm seeing other podcasters, a lot of them are recording 5 to 10 episodes, over 5 to 10 weeks, and then they do their launch, and then they have content to post. So that way the stuff they're recording this week does not have to go live this week. I get up Saturday morning, I'm going to edit this episode Saturday morning before it goes out.
So that is something I've done research, because like I said, I've thought about this over the years. I've considered like doing something like this just as like a side gig and seeing what would happen with it. And that's something that I have picked up on, is that like a lot of people I've seen where they say, like, not necessarily that's how they started the channel, but that's what they shoot for where they're at in their channel now. And like, these are some pretty big channels, like Cruise the Originals out in Arizona. Like, they try and knock out, as much recording as they can throughout the week, and they'll work on different bikes and then compound all that footage, and then like edit like 8 videos. And then, cause like when they go to like bike events and stuff, they can't do that. So that that takes a whole week of work away from them, because they're just recording that one thing. So that's what I've been working on. I've been getting like photos and stuff for Instagram, and like little short clips and stuff for shorts. And like this garage, when I was cleaning it up, it had a Pennsylvania motorcycle license plate in it, and I threw it to the side because I love, obviously I like making shit out of shit. And I was like, I need a holder to hold my Roku remote. So I made a short. I haven't posted or anything, but I made a short of me making this like impromptu remote holder to hang on the wall out of that license plate. So I've just been collecting stuff like that. And then my goal is I'm gonna get real technical here. I'm gonna do a soft launch November 1st.
Okay. Awesome.
Yeah.
Well, I'll be off work that day and planning to go racing. So if you get it out, I'll have something I can watch that day. So yeah, we'll eventually, I think, get there. The problem, or not problem, I definitely want this to be somewhat current, right? Especially if we're talking about, and I'm glad that we recorded for an hour and 40 minutes, so I couldn't go on a political rant because we've so far kept it away from that. And I very much wanted to, from some things I've seen this week about some rallies and different things that I had some very opinionated thoughts, and I'm glad we kept it lighthearted. But trying to keep things current means you kind of got to record that week, right? But I think we could definitely do some content that fit, like this conversation. Really, we would not have to be episode 20 if we just didn't have one to post this weekend. But right now we're recording and then posting, and I'm very blessed to work remote. I work from home, so at 5:00, the minute I'm off work, I can just shift to doing this and working on the editing most of the time, unless the kids have something. So it's working for now, but there will come a time where we're going to have some in the bank for like the week we go to LS Fest.
Yeah.
Like we didn't post an episode this year, whereas we could have had one keyed up and ready to go, and had it post while we were there, and we could have just focused on enjoying the event.
If I'm being honest with you, I thought that y'all were recording something when y'all so I was like really excited to see like what y'all did or some footage, and I was like, oh damn, they didn't. Okay, all right, cool. Maybe next year.
We were going to.
It was totally the plan.
But it was a lot. Yeah,
I can only imagine. I can only imagine.
Well, so I went into it this year. I spread myself too thin. I really wanted to get pictures of Steve's car on the track, like I promised I was going to make sure that happened. Well, then, Ryan's there with the cool Blazer. You've got Austin and those guys with Boosted Street Junk and Filthy, and I wanted to get shots of them. John Schaefer's there running his car. He won the stock block class last year, so I wanted to get some of him on track. I personally wanted to shoot the drifting, and so I had to spend a little bit of time doing that. And then the rest of the time I was with Chris, when he's doing the autocross and taking pictures and stuff. But my setup that I had was more focused on photography. And so I didn't get to do as much video as I wanted. And I got home and it's like, I don't have enough here really for much of anything. I do have videos of the burnout contests of almost every run, including the one where the one guy almost ran us over. We were up on the wall shooting the video, and the dude drove the car into the wall like 3 feet to the right and just laid on the throttle and, was smoking him down. But it's like, if me and the other photographers hadn't moved, like there was a guy that was standing right there, and it was very, wasn't great.
Yeah.
But, but I've got videos of most of those. I've got a good bit of videos of the drifting, but we've said we're going to do like a recap where we go back and talk more about it. And then I can slot some of those clips and things in. And then, we've just had opportunities to have guests on or other topics. And next thing you know, I
tell you what, I've got a ton of pictures and videos on my phone still that I haven't even done like a Facebook drop yet. I mean, I probably have 300 or 400, pictures and videos that I need to get off my phone.
That's cute.
Yeah.
I took over 4,000 photos while I was there.
Hey,
but
I was racing.
So.
Have y'all ever
I
drift
literally
Appalachia?
went there with the sole purpose. No, but that sounds amazing.
You have? So the reason I found out about it is because Chris or maybe it's James, one of y'all brought up the guy that's got the 69 Charger drift car.
Yeah. So I'm friends with him on Facebook now.
Yeah, I looked him up and found him, and then he posted a thing about Drift Appalachia, and it's like a drift event up on the mountain. I don't know if I don't know, like if it's like a 33 type situation or if it's like Skyline Drive type situation. But one of the things, so me being into all motorcycles, like I don't care if it's got two wheels, I'm about it. I also love like the skill aspect of it, and I'm gonna try. And so Mike Campbell, when I was a kid, always called me freestyle because I was always trying to do some sort of trick, and it wasn't like to show off. For me, it's like just the conquering the skill,
accomplishment.
Yeah, and I have been pondering. I don't want to like put too much on my plate, but I've been pondering like as a way to try and hold myself accountable. trying to learn how to legitimately drift my Bolt, and then contact the people at Drift Appalachia and be like, hey, can I participate? Because I didn't see anything about any motorcycles there. Record, and then, but like make that like part of like my video series is like, hey, watch me go and eat shit on my Bolt in this empty parking lot a bunch of times so I can try and go to this event and make a fool of myself.
Yeah.
But what a payoff that video would be,
right?
Like, doing it, right? You got all this montage of like failure after failure, it'd be like a movie.
Yeah.
Yeah. Oh, yeah. Well, I'm sure I don't remember who did them, but several years ago, there was some videos released on YouTube that had some guys on some, I think they were hypermotos, and they're like, one of them, they're like drifting on like the old mountain roads somewhere out west.
Yep, Icon.
I think they had like and then there was another one they had like a cop car chasing them.
Yep.
And I think it was like a Coyote car or whatever.
Yep.
Not Coyote, it was a Terminator Mustang.
Okay, yeah.
And they're out there drifting them.
Yeah,
and I'm like, I thought that
I think
was
it
the
was
coolest
like
shit.
3 of them. Icon did put all that stuff on.
Okay.
Uh-huh.
Yeah, I didn't know I couldn't remember who had done them. I remember watching those like, man, this is some badass shit.
Dude, I'm telling you, man. And now they've got this event called Drift Cross for motorcycles. Like these, and primarily dudes out on Harleys. I haven't seen anybody ride anything else, but they go out and they set up like a little short course in a parking lot with cones, and then you got to race around it, but you got to be drifting the whole time, basically.
Oh, wow.
And it is wild.
I was about to say, that's crazy.
Y'all starting some of those motorcycle takeovers or something next? Out there whipping it in intersections.
Nah.
It wouldn't be nearly as cool because when somebody gets plowed on one of those, they go flying. Like, you hit them with a motorcycle, like they'll go a little ways, but not nearly as much as. I'm very passionate about how stupid those things are. Like, I go out and do fun stuff in the cars, but when there's like civilians, that's, street racing, like what you see on Street Outlaws and all that stuff, it's fine. Doing no prep events, it's great. When you're on the interstate, in a car that weighs over 4,500 pounds, you're doing 120. And you're flying past somebody like my wife and my kids, or maybe my 16-year-old daughter that's driving. Like, I'm not cool with any of that. Yeah. And it's incredibly dangerous, incredibly selfish. And I get so, and like the takeovers and all of that culture right now is just stupid.
The ride outs, the first year for these ride outs, like the one out in Chicago and stuff, like where it's just like 10,000 sport bikes riding wheelies down the interstate, and they get pretty wild with it. When it very first became a thing, I was like, this is really fucking stupid. People are really going to get hurt. There was the incident up in New York where a kid jumps off his sport bike and pulls the gun out on a woman that's got her kid in the back seat. Like, there are the people that ruin it for everybody else. Like, that kid was an idiot. But what I will say is, like, for the ride outs, not so much the takeovers, but for the ride outs, they do it the same time every single year. So you can kind of like plan your day around it. Not saying that there's not people that, there's a few bad apples that'll ruin it for everybody else, but like, it's kind of, as outlandish as it is, it's kind of cool too, in a way.
Right.
But you had to have that first like 1 or 2 years where people were like figured it out, and now it's like they know, like, there's posters and flyers, and it's like, hey, this is happening this day. Expect delays, which we live in Virginia, and we already have to deal with delays from VDOT. So I'd rather watch some dudes ride wheelies than watch them pave the road.
Yeah, and that's what I'm saying. I mean, I think there's a level of, okay, I'm doing this dumb thing. It's a danger to me, but keeping it away from somebody who didn't ask to be a part of it. Right. Like. I'm a big believer in personal liberty. We're not going to go down the political rabbit hole, but I'm a big believer that you can do whatever you like to do as long as it doesn't infringe on me doing what I like to do or put me or mine in danger. Because at that point, I have a responsibility to protect me and mine. And that's beyond that. Like, as long as what you're doing is not hurting anybody else, I don't care.
Yeah.
But that's how I am about the takeovers and all that. You're just running the risk of hurting.
Several weeks ago, I went on a motorcycle benefit ride. I'm sorry, I forget. I don't know can't remember the guy's last name. Guy River, was that a motorcycle accident?
Yeah.
And so Bruce can't do wheelies. He invited me on. So me and my kids went out. It was on a Sunday, and we loaded up in the Caprice, and we rode out there with them. It was like, I don't know, 100 motorcycles or so. And we rode out through Goshen Pass and back.
Yeah.
Got a bunch of cool pictures. And like my daughter was like, there's like, well, like the police shut off Greenville Avenue so we could get out of the mall, all parking lot together.
Yeah.
And my daughter was like asking me questions about it. And I was like, a lot of people like, big groups of motorcyclists, cars, car enthusiasts, they a lot of times get a bad rap because, driving loud, rally vehicles. Then you do have some bad apples that do dumb shit. But I said, you also have a lot of good. There was someone that was injured and they were all trying to get together, have a little benefit for the guy and his family. And, just so many people that were out there cruising for him. I mean, it was a good time. And, my kids really saw it then that they're like, well, we've never really saw it that way.
Are you going to participate in the one for Mr. Shuey, the guy who lived down the road from you just passed away?
That one I did not hear about yet.
Yeah, the guy's got the silver F-250 crew cab short bed. It's right down the street from you. He grew up in that house. Was it David Shuey or whatever? Either way, he passed. He passed away last week, and they're doing a benefit ride. Exact same deal. To my knowledge, they're even leaving from the mall in Stanton, or was mall.
Okay.
It's either the 1st or the 3rd, whichever one's on a Sunday.
Okay.
They're doing that.
I don't remember.
I'll share it with you on Facebook.
Yeah, you'll have to do some video if you go, Chris. Because that's one thing I think we do need to do more of, even if it's just the shorts. Yeah, right. Is just events.
I've got some pictures
like
and videos from when I went to the one a few weeks ago.
Yeah, and I'll end us off with this, Mikey. As you get started with the YouTube, I don't know how much experience you have editing and things like that, but it's definitely something that I enjoy. So as you encounter questions, problems, whatever, definitely let me know. I'll help you as much as I can.
Hey, I appreciate it, man. I really do. I can use all the help I can get.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Well, it's like, we've done so I've been on the Untitled Car Project podcast a couple of times now. I think Chris is going to try to do it. We're going to get Rob from there. He wants to come on here. He's a motorcycle guy too. Now he does autocross. He's got some cars and stuff he autocrosses with, but he mentioned the other day, he heard the last episode and he was like, I like motorcycles too. So I'd love to come on. So we'll probably get him on here. And, my big thing, and I told him this last time, I can't remember if it was when we were recording or not, is I want to see kind of everybody win, right? Like if we can figure this thing out together, right? And, the lessons that we learn can help you and vice versa, we can all come up some and at least do something that's fulfilling. When we spend this time doing it, even if one person listens, but when we get that comment where somebody's like, man, that resonated with me, or, that makes sense. And that's exactly how I feel, or whatever we get, it's always a good feeling. So it makes it worthwhile, but obviously if we can help each other grow, I'm all about it.
Oh yeah, absolutely.
Hell yeah. No, absolutely. And I appreciate that. I really do. And right before you leave, I do want to say it ain't got to be this episode, but me personally, I like the longer episodes. For me personally. Because I love putting y'all on. I got a little TV in the garage. I can listen to it while I'm working. It's nice.
Yeah.
No,
I like longer episodes.
Yeah, I think a lot of that.
I know
was
it's
just
a lot of
born
editing. I
from
can
most
only imagine, but yeah.
Well, I'll tell you. So the last couple of weeks, I'm gonna plug Riverside, and only because I believe in it, right? So I've been really active in their Discord channel, trying to help other podcasters learn to use this software. It's very simple. They're steadily adding stuff to it, so there's new features coming. There's a lot to be desired on the editing side of it. But one thing that I've done the last 2 episodes is I've not edited a whole lot. Now it does have an option. Literally, I can click a button and it'll go find all the pauses, the ums, and the ahs, and it'll delete them all if I want them to.
Really?
I don't use that because sometimes it'll make the conversation feel weird in some spots because it, sometimes a slight pause was intentional. But what I can do, instead of me having to sit there and listen to the whole episode for everything and trim it in DaVinci like I was doing with Riverside, it gives me a whole transcript of the episode. I can sit there and read it and just read through it and look for things that jump out as a problem or, whatever that may be. And so it it's at least cut my editing time in half, but there's a lot that you can hit a button and it goes through and it looks at the transcript and it divides everything we talked about into like topics.
Oh, wow.
And I'm trying to figure out how to translate that over to timestamps on YouTube so people can go, okay, I really just want to hear about the motorcycles, and they can go click that section and take them to it. I haven't figured that out yet, but I think it's a thing. But I'll say the longer episode is good. And I think, for me, I've reduced my editing time by not worrying so much about making sure the conversation was quick and there weren't any pauses, there weren't any ums. And what that's done is I've gotten feedback the last couple episodes where they're like, man, the episodes really flowed really well. I enjoyed these. And so while I was making it maybe more professional, I don't know that I was making it more relatable and just kind of having the natural conversation. And the Untitled Car Project guys kind of taught me that. I'm not saying theirs are bad. Their chemistry and everything, they flow really well. And so they end up just, the conversation, if they, like a couple weeks ago, I goofed or something. I was like, I'll probably edit that out. Chris was like, no, hell, you're not. And I was just like, all right, we're all humans. We're going to leave it, and that's kind of what I've been doing. And honestly, it's taken a lot of the stress off me too.
Yeah. And as we've gone, we've probably gotten a lot better with the ahs and ums. But like you said, it's just, everybody speaks like that at some point. So if you cut out too much of it, it is going to sound a little bit
robotic
weird,
or something.
Robotic, probably.
Yeah, less organic.
Yeah, I mean, if I was doing a lecture or something, I was teaching you about some technology. Sure, you probably don't want to hear me using a lot of filler words because it makes me sound like maybe he doesn't know what he's talking about. But just us sitting here chatting, it wasn't worth the time I was putting into it to do that. If we make it big and people are like, yeah, it's terrible, then I'll just start using the auto feature that just pulls them all out automatically. And
I would have made an account. And so with what you're saying there, I will ask you while we're on the topic, is there will the Riverside app be beneficial for me as somebody that's not podcasting, but I am going to be talking to the camera and recording what I'm doing? Does it offer anything to me, or is it really more so just for in this type of scenario?
No, so you can fire it up and just record yourself, right? So before this, if I was recording myself, I was using OBS Studio, and it does give you a lot more granular control of your audio tracks and some other things there in OBS versus this. But if you simply want to sit down, record yourself doing, telling stories or whatever that is, honestly, I'd fire up a Riverside Studio, record it, because when you're done, all your files are uploaded and you can either download them and you can put them into a separate video editor. You don't have to edit in Riverside, but it'll give you subtitles automatically. I mean, and you can correct the words.
Which I noticed y'all had those now, and that's really cool.
Yep. And so I've gone back and forth because we did that, but then cutting it up into shorts was more difficult because with the shorts, what it'll do is it'll highlight the person that was talking back and forth, but it was only showing half the subtitle because, of that. But now I've found Riverside also has the option. You take your long form video, you can tell it to kick out shorts.
Oh.
So I would say for you, just if you're going to be recording yourself, telling a story, talking, whatever, like sitting in front of the screen like this, I think it could definitely be helpful. I think as far as once you're working on the bikes and things like that, it would take some experimentation. I can still see it working, but it might make more sense to use this for record yourself talking about what you were doing and have it overlaid of the raw video you took of you working on the bike. And then you're kind of doing like a voiceover type thing. I can see that working.
Yeah, no, I'm
but it makes doing the subtitles and stuff super easy. Mm-hmm.
I'm experimenting.
Yeah, definitely.
It's really weird. It's really weird when you experiment listening back to yourself talk though.
Oh man. I still hate to hear myself talk. I will say I play our podcast to listen to it, make sure I didn't say anything really embarrassing. But I also, a lot of times I've got the volume kind of low and I'm just letting it play.
Yeah.
I don't necessarily want to listen to myself talk, but
yeah. Hey, well, I'm hoping with this new, so we at my old job, we had earbuds and whatnot for the longest time. Then they told us we couldn't have them anymore. So then they cut down a lot on my music and podcasting time because I really enjoyed listening to a podcast while I was doing some work. And so that cut down a lot of me listening. But I think with this news, with the place I'm going now, that, when I'm in the office doing things, I can just pop in an earbud and just sit there and I'll probably go back to listening to podcasts. And I listened to quite a bit of ours there for a while. And then I'm like, okay, I kind of have them for a while. Every now and then I'll pop it on something, but I haven't been out in the garage working a lot as much as I was. So I've got a TV out here too. So that was my step, was to try to start playing some out here. Dave, good friend of mine, went over to his house several weeks ago, walked out to the shop, and he had us playing on the wall too on TV. So that was pretty cool.
Man, I tell you what, anybody that's listened this far, if you really want to make my night or my day, send me a picture of it, like on your radio or whatever. Like, I still think it's the coolest thing.
He gets excited.
I do for sure. All right.
Well,
we are half an hour past my kids' bedtime. I'm sure they're in the bed. Mikey, I really appreciate that. You're definitely going to have to come back, because there's obviously a lot we probably shouldn't talk about. I didn't tell about when my dad rode the XR80 and caught a barbed wire fence and went flying over the handlebars.
Yeah.
He loved when I told that story. So we'll save that one for next time if you don't let me forget. But any last thoughts, last things you want to throw out there on the interwebs?
No, I really appreciate the opportunity, guys. And I was super stoked when I found out that Chris was going to be doing this. And it's been everything that I thought it would be, and maybe even a little bit more. And I really look forward to see where y'all are next year come LS Fest.
Heck yeah. Can't wait.
I was thinking about that today. I'm like, man, because with this new job, I don't know, how my vacation will be, and if I'll be able to take off the same amount of time like I did last year. So then I'm like, all right. I told myself that this year when we signed up, I'm like, I'm signed up for this class. It's going to be a big class. I'll be busy. And I'm like, it was a blast. I want to do it again. But I'm like, if I can't make it there the day earlier like I, did this year, I'm like, maybe I look at doing a smaller class or looking into seeing how we are with this, and see if there's a possibility where we can set up a tent somewhere at the event. That would be pretty cool.
That's what I
That'd be really sweet.
I want to see y'all so busy with this.
Get us on Vendor Row.
Yeah.
We'll sit out there and talk shit to people all weekend.
Look, if we could get on Vendor Row next year, if I've got the OBS ready, or, the Trans Am, whatever, we'll bring our cars, we'll set them up by the tent, and we'll have some sure enough shit boxes sitting next to the tent, but we'll have High Octane Dad set up, big and proud. I'd be all about that.
If I knew we could get in there for that, I would make sure to just sign up for whatever I needed to, and I would find a way to get this hunk of shit behind me there, and we could have both of them there if we did that.
Look, and I'll tell you, it would definitely catch eyes. I don't know if I told you the story last year when me and Dad were driving into the car show area. We'll end with this, but we were riding by, and he just started laughing. And I was like, what? And he said, there were some guys sitting over there with a sign that said shitbox count. And when you went by, the guy went Firebird, and somebody wrote another tally mark on it. It's like, I just threw my arm out the window, like, yeah.
That's awesome.
Just kept going.
Yeah.
So, we definitely, we would catch some eyes for better or for worse. So,
oh yeah.
But again, really appreciate it. We'll wrap it up there, and have a good evening, folks.